accepted for me to take, right? Because he offered. Because the lawyer, the mediator at a point was like, something is not right here. The split is not even. What is happening? That's when he asked me if my family was rich or something. And that's when John offered in that moment, because the lawyer was concerned. Because I told him, this guy, when I filed for divorce, he's telling me that I'm not going to take anything, and I don't want it. If he's not parted with love, because I know what I went through in this marriage, right? The lack this guy was projecting. I will expand on that as well later. So after that, lawyer said, expose this. John was like, okay, fine, she can take the 401k account, because at the end of the day, she's the one who created it. She's the one who made me put money in it. And I was like, out of pride, I said, I don't fucking want it. I was responding, I was being defensive, I was being proud, and in sitting in meditation that evening, I was given the insight to take that 401k account, right? Yeah. So I asked John, are you offering for me to take the 401k account out of love? And he said, yes, I am offering it with love, because truthfully, you're the one who set it up for us. And I was like, fine, I'll take it. So out of that 401k account, and this is what I want to expose. I'm sharing this because I want to expose when your twin flame project lack onto you, because you rebind yourself to his frequency. And as he's expressing and projecting lack onto you, John was projecting lack onto me. My family was projecting lack onto me, So when I took over that 401k account, I sent money to my dad. These people were asking for money, and I had compassion because I understood. This guy was a driver. The driver throughout the whole time I was in Benin was highly speaking about his daughter. And for me it was rare, to see a father so proud of his daughter. It warmed my heart. So when he reached out, when I was in the US and talking about, he needs to pay tuition, it's hard, he's a driver, his salary, I was like, fine. I sent it to him. I sent it to Manny. I sent it to Tom. I was like, everybody was calling, and I was sending, and I was not thinking about myself, So I started freaking out. And I called Derek, and I'm like, what is happening? You're your best friend here. Something is going on. He's asking me for money. His brother is asking me. And then Derek exploded. He was like, I didn't tell you to take his number. You did. So why are you calling me to tell me these things? And I was like, wow, I have to be able to talk about these things at least, I understand it's not your, the only reason I gave my number to this guy is because of you, because even at a point when we were going to Benin, I was like, I just want to be with you. I don't want to see anybody. I don't even want to see Manny, and he was like, no, Manny is not possible. He has to be there. I was like, okay, fine. You see, I conceded, So when he told me this thing, well, all I saw was fear. This guy doesn't have the ability to fend for himself. This is what I saw. He checks out. This is how he does it, right? He was right. He presented it. He called me and said, in front of Manny, can I give Manny your number? What did you expect me to say? You see, you put me on the spot. You forced me to hang out with these people. And then I'm being blamed because as these people are reaching out to me, in a way that I feel like I'm overwhelmed, now I'm being punished for expressing myself. You see? So I was like, okay. All he's telling me is to stand for myself. It has helped me. I learned to set boundaries, and for all of them, all these people, I was like, after a point, I was like, I wish you all the best, but now I want silence. So it ends with me. I've been there, but now I'm seeing manipulation, you know, I'm seeing dependency, I'm seeing lack, right? Because they embodied the lack that was projected onto me. And it's only with compassion, because I did give, I did support, you know, but they keep coming back for more. And I'm like, dude, I am getting divorced. I'm trying to fend for myself. I'm a single mom. I'm like trying to adjust and adapt, you know? And these things kept happening, right? And as Derek made all his intention clear, right? I called him and I was like, you know, is this what you want? I told him, is this what you want? You know, I will text him because I'm like, you stop talking, you hiding, you don't want to say anything anymore. You know, you shouldn't get upset when I'm saying this truth, because this is how I grow, you know, in speaking truth. I get to see myself, I get to look at myself, and I get to analyze things, and I get to see where there's room for expansion, you know. But he didn't have any concept of this, right? His life was the way he ran things. This is how he was enabled by his environment. So at this point, I will ask him, is this what you want? And he will say, but you know, I am as in love with you as you are with me. And I'll be like, I don't see it. I couldn't see it. I feel the love, but your actions are saying something totally different. And that's when he told me, you know, he needs time for his relationship. And I'm like, okay, you need time. How much time do you need? You know? And that's when he told me 5 to 10 years. And I'm like, wow. So you are behaving like this. You have this answer, right? You want me to stick around for 5 and 10 to 10 years while you are fucking your girlfriend and living the family life. You want me to be the other woman, and you want me to stick around, and every attention that you give me, I should be honored and devalue me to be the other woman? No. He said a lot. So, you know, I was like, and that's it. This is the hardest lesson. This is why I say to people, you talk about twin flame. When your twin flame start behaving this way, you know, the agony that you feel, even everything I went through in 15 years does not even compare to those few months with Derek. It does not compare, you know. I was destabilized beyond imagination. I couldn't hold up. I didn't know who I was. I was like, what the fuck is going on? This is just a guy. Why am I behaving this way? You know? Yeah, so I called him and I was like, you know, at the end of the day, I understand. You know, I've been there. I've been married. You know, I had a family. I know the pressure of having kids. You know, I know all of that. And I understand. I'm even in admiration to meet a man who wants to stand there for his kids and his family. Because for me, in my marriage with John, even getting John to go to the park with Anne was a headache. I had to it had to be like over 2 hours argument just for this fucking guy to take his daughter to the park, you know? So for me to observe that how this guy, Derek, wants to be there for his family and support his girlfriend, I'm presuming he has shared nothing. You know, this guy was a closed book and I couldn't read him. That's the beauty of it. I could not read him. He was, yeah, you see, he was cloaked just like me. Yeah. He was me, you see. He was reflecting my wounds. Yeah. So I told him, look, I get it. You know, I just want out. I'm tired of changing my number or blocking you or throwing tantrum. I just want out. Just tell me. Because when I will ask him, is this what you want? He'll say no. You know, you will understand later. You know, was his technique of taming me. Yeah, he has tried that when we were teenagers. It didn't work. I stay quiet, but that doesn't mean You know, Wild and Untamed is my middle name. No man will try to get me. My dad has tried, you know, he hasn't succeeded, you know. Nobody else is gonna come and tell me I need to be a certain way. I refused, you know. So I called him and I was like, look, at the end of the day, I will return you to your family, you know. You telling me you need 5-10 years? You knew this whole time. Why didn't you let me go? Why try to get me pregnant? Why do all these things and then condemn me? You see, you know. So I was like, yeah, go. I set you free. That's what I told him. I set him free. I let him go, you know. But you know, he has to let me go. That's when he said no. And I said, okay, if you are not willing to let me go, then I want you to come here in the US, right? No Benin, right? Because in Benin, he hides and he runs around, he hides behind everybody else. I'm like, I want you here. Now, time to fucking talk and face ourselves. You know, time to fucking speak truth. So he was like, fine, I'll see what I can do. And he disappeared. Again, you see, trying to tame, trying to control, trying to force and bind me to that frequency. And I felt it in every cell of my body. I you know, I understood in that moment. You know, this is what I'm saying. You judge people, and this is the judgment part. Once you start, it's like you start facing the creations, you know, all the investment you've put in people. It comes in because those people get to really show you where they stand when it comes to you. And Derek showed me that, right? He disappeared. So I reached out to Victor. Yeah, because Victor came up even when, you know, I spent New Year's with Derek's friend. I saw they were all talking about Victor. You know, Victor was the only one who got a scholarship to the United States because he got grades beyond, that were like the highest in the region, whatever. So Victor came up, and Victor and I have not spoken. So what happened? Okay. So then, before I go on Victor, I have to express where Derek and I ended, right? Because after that, Derek was like, he did show up. So I was like, I reached out to Victor, and we connected, and that's why I told him this lack that I'm feeling. You know, I'm going to do something about it. And I'm just, you know, I was drunk when I wrote him this message, you know, and that's my ego trying to resist where my heart was leading me. You know, I was expressing to him what I was willing to do, you know, to get rid of these projections of lack, you know, and control he was binding me at. So he responded, are you asking me if you can sleep with Victor? And I was like, no. And I ended the conversation there. You know, I don't have to ask anybody who to sleep with. That decision has always been, will always be, and is my decision, right? I am woman. So with that response, I was like, that's it. You know, I know what to do. My heart has showed me already where the path was leading me. The only way out is to let go. And that I resisted in every way possible. I could not let go. And that's where it led me to this type of, you know, manipulations. So, yeah, let's go to Victor. What a beautiful man. This guy, wow. The growth that I felt going through this guy was exponential. You know, you have to only be grateful, right? Yes, I am truly grateful, because the gift that was hidden through this experience, it took me really a lot of detachment to be able to appreciate it. It took observing my brother's responses, you know, to be able to see in contrast the purpose Victor has served in this whole experience. Because when Victor was introduced to me after this betrayal I felt from Derek at 19. So after that separation, Victor moved to the US in Chicago or Illinois, in Illinois. Yeah. So Victor stayed at his uncle's place. He had an uncle in that state. So he resided there. But his uncle was very abusive, right, and controlling. You see, they face themselves. You know. And he would call me all the time because we practice English. I've been here a year or two before him, you know, a year before him, a year and a half maybe. And although I was also learning English, what has helped me is to speak it with my siblings, you know, and, you know, so he helped me, and every time we would talk, it was a way for us to practice, me to practice with him. We will only speak in English, you know. It is then that I really discovered, you know, this character and why Derek, you know, was bonded to him, you know. This guy, wow, yeah. He will describe to me, we got really close because I understood who he was, you know, he had a good heart, you know, with the suffering he's been through. We had similar, you know, experiences, right? Because his father committed suicide and was alcoholic and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like that bond between us happened naturally. You know, he would call me and he would tell me how he masturbated in the shower. He talked about all the stuff, and I would call him and I would talk to him about what I was doing with some of my boyfriends, right? And it's like at a point, Victor left his uncle's place and became free. He resided on campus. And that's when he started talking to me about his experiences with women and what women were willing to do just to go out with him. And I couldn't understand, you know, I challenged Victor in ways that for him, I was an anomaly, right? Because I would tell him, I don't understand why these women are working so hard to go out with you because you are not that handsome, you know? And he would be shocked by the things I said because I spoke from a place of truth. I didn't find him handsome, you know? So I was like, and I saw how he presented himself in Benin for people to be, he was just like my brother, this air of superiority because he was intelligent and, you know, he had scores that in school that a lot of people didn't have. And, you know, his dad was a doctor and affluent and, you know, he used to go to Benin. When he was in Benin, they would go to pageant, him and Derek, they would pick up the winner and the second the second in line, and they would take them home with Victor's car, and they would fuck around with girls, and it was the good life, you know. That's when I came, it was like a party and all of that. I understood all of that was shared with me, and it was fine. I was like, okay. You know, so Victor, at a point, Victor came to New York, and Derek knew that we were friends and we were hanging out. And Derek called me back in the days when Victor was visiting me in New York. Derek called me and was like, Jen, I heard that Victor is coming to visit you in New York. I was like, oh. Really? You heard that, huh? So he was like, look, you know, Victor is known to sleep with all his friends' girlfriend. I was like, how interesting. How interesting. Yeah. Oh, wow. And yet he's your best friend, you know? So this is your, you know, creation. Right? Why are you calling me? We are done. We're not dating. We are just friends, you and I. And I'm friends with Victor, so if I decide to do anything, it's for me to do it. You know? That's what I told Derek. You know? But I wasn't aware that Victor slept with that reputation. I didn't know the guy. You know, I know him after he moved to the US. you know. So Derek calling me and expressing that, I sense his fear, and I couldn't even understand why. I was like, this guy is, it's like everything Victor stands for was triggering me in ways, but I wanted to know what makes a man behave this way. I was intrigued, and Victor was the only person who exposed himself to me. He spoke truth, you know, he didn't hide. Because I challenged him. I was like, you but ugly. Why are these women trying so? And he would tell me everything they did, you know, how they gangbang some women. And all these women, and he would show me apps. You know, the apps, he would go, they would connect, and you just show up, you fuck the girl, and then your best friend steps in and fuck the girl as well. Like, what the fuck? Who are these women doing this, enabling this type of behavior? I was shocked. I was like, how? This, I don't believe you. You know, I would challenge him. I'm like, there's no way. You know, and he would keep telling me he find it amusing, you know. So Victor came in New York, and I was intrigued. I'm like, this guy must be some type of phenomenon in bed. And because I couldn't climax with any man, I was interested. I'm like, well, I want to know. You are but ugly. I used to say this to him. You are not handsome, you know. But I was intrigued because that confidence that he was presenting was palpable, you know. I'm like, this guy must be some type of genius in bed for these women to allow him to get away with so many things. So when Victor came to New York, right, I was interested just for research, right, for data, you know. But I knew if I sleep with him, things will be over with Derek, right? And I didn't sleep with him. Even watching, the only thing Victor wanted to do was to go to strip clubs. So that was a discovery for me. I went to strip clubs with him, you know, and even seeing how he rolled dollars, and he, like, these strippers will come and spread their legs. This guy, he rolled the dollars with such skills, you know. He was like, it's like a in 2 seconds, he was like, plop. I was like, wow. I would sit next to him. I was like, wow. And he would be like, the stripper will be dancing and they'll open her leg and he will aim that roll inside. And I was like, wow. It's like something else stepped in. You know, I would watch him. And it's like the character, this is how I started observing people, you know. You have to appreciate. And I talk to these strippers. I'm like, why are you doing this? You know, that while Victor is getting lap dances and stuff, I was chatting with strippers. I'm like, why do you do this? You know? And they will tell me, you know, to pay for college or do, you know, pay rent and things like that. And these women were the strongest women I have ever met. You know, there was no victimizing that energy that they were presenting. They were master of their craft. They knew how to lure men into their den. You know, they were professionals. You know, that's how I observed. Like, it was like interesting. That was quite an interesting experience. And then Victor went back. You know, nothing happened because, you know, I was still holding on to the hope. For me, to the future, any potential future with Derek was worth letting go, trying to see what this guy Victor was hiding. So when I came to this point in my getting out of my marriage and telling Derek that I reconnected with Victor, you know, I knew what needed to be done for detachment, right? I knew the insight was given to me. So yeah, I reached out to Victor, and it happened, he was like 4 hours away from me, right? He lived in Massachusetts, right? And he was telling me that he just got out of his marriage as well, which was so interesting. Yeah, he got out of his marriage. He was living by himself. He was a single dad, and he was going through a very hard time. The divorce, he recently divorced, and he was surrounded by a lot of fear and rage. I sensed it. So he was telling me that he has read about psychedelics, and he was interested in trying it, but he didn't know how to procure it for himself. And I was like, dude, I have psychedelics in my fridge. Yeah, because microdosing on psychedelics is how I combining that with my meditation has helped me a lot to go within, right? This is the ayahuasca has sparked that inner discovery in me. So I kind of ventured into that field at that juncture. So I told Victor, I have a mushroom in my fridge, and psychedelics, I can bring them to you. And there was a long weekend coming, so I was like, maybe you come to me. And he was like, no, that doesn't work. I'm in between things, but maybe you can come. Can you do that? And I was like, sure. Yeah. So I came to him. We spent, so even for that to happen, right, I was excited because him and I started talking about spirituality. He was going through the same thing I was, and he fell in love with one of his colleagues at work, and that's what pulled him out of his marriage, which was so interesting. I was like, wow, we're going through the same thing. And he was saying how he was struggling because, the woman he fell in love with was kind of like wishy-washy. And I was like, wow, yeah, I know, because I'm going through the same thing with Derek. And he was like, you got in touch with Derek? I was like, yeah, I got in touch, and this is what's happening. So it was like sharing my agony with someone. I was excited, but my ego there was a lot of resistance, because it was like, I knew if I slept with this guy, I was done with Derek, right? So even going to Boston, I put on my granny pants. I was like, I'm not gonna shave my armpit. I wore like a sweater. I brought nothing, no bra, nothing fancy. I was like, I'm just gonna be like, there's, my ego tried to obstruct. It was like there was huge resistance because it's Derek, right? So I went to Boston. I brought the psychedelics, and Victor shared with me what happened with his ex-wife. In getting out of his marriage, she retaliated and put him in jail. Tricked him and called the cops on him and pretended that she was scared for her life, and this guy got kicked out of his house, couldn't see his kids, and this whole thing backfired. But so he was holding on to a lot of resentment, like and he transmuted that. I was showing him, but at the end of the day, you got your freedom. So it's presented this way, and you want to punish your ex-wife, but you have to hold on to the fact that you are free. You see, I was transmuting these things for him, and as we were talking and all of that, so I also started sharing with him things I have endured with Derek. The fact how I could not get anything out of this guy. In my heart, I was broken. I was heartbroken. I didn't even know what to do. I was facing things, and it was impossible to talk to Derek. He was like a vault. There was, as soon as I start talking about something, he would just shut down and walk away. So I was expressing this to Victor, and that's when Victor was like, I visited him in France one of these years. I was like, okay, you visited him, huh? I was like, yeah, I visited him. I spent time with his family, with his wife. I was like, yeah, wow, okay, good for you. And that's when he told me that, and I started telling, Derek how, maybe I'll do something with his wife. he got my attention, because at that point I was like, no, there's no one. And he changed too. He grew a beard, and he used to be chubby, but then he fit. After COVID, he was working out. He got fit, but he was very bulky. But yeah, this change, it changed my concept of the person how I viewed him in the past. So for me, it's like this new appearance. He was like a new person. And even hearing Victor talk about spirituality, he also was reading Carl Jung, and I was excited because I have never spoken to anybody about my discoveries. And he was telling me he's studying theology because he wants to understand. He was interested in this stuff. And I was like, so we were talking for hours. So he started talking about Derek, and he said when he visited him, and he was doing this thing with his wife, and Derek was so scared, and he was laughing it off. He was so scared that his wife, and I used to hold his wife, and he was like, and in that moment I knew. I was like, that's my moment. It ends with me. Obviously that was my answer. Derek loved his girlfriend, or he wouldn't have reacted this way, right? But no more manipulation. So in that moment, I told him, can I kiss you? And he I was like, yeah, this is still going on after 10 years. You're still manipulating your friend. You say he's your best friend, and yet every time it's about sleeping with whoever he's dating. No, it ends with me, So I said, can I kiss you? That's it. That's what I want. I had my granny pants. I didn't shave my armpit, but I was inspired, That was my moment. Yeah. So he said yes. I kissed him, So yeah, I fucked him. Yeah. And after we slept together, he was shocked. And I couldn't understand why he was so shocked. Apparently, that's when he revealed to me, that since his divorce, he has not been able to, get intimate with any woman, and that's the rage, the resentment he was holding on. This is it, I know my presence speaks for itself. There's no resisting me, It's an honor to be in my presence. Yeah. So yeah, I did it, and I was like, okay. So as the weekend came to an end, I was like, okay. So I release a lot of energies for him, and